Happy New Year, everyone. Today I thought I would tell you what I learned throughout my year of journaling that I'll be doing in 2025. It's a quick overview in case you don't know my system, and without being too repetitive of those that do, I use the Hobonichi A6 as a memory keeper / archive system, and this is to document my life. And I also use my passport traveler's notebook for any overflow that does not fit in with the memory keeping aspect. So the first thing that I learned was, while I do enjoy the structure, I also would like something that has more creative freedom. I enjoyed the layout of the Hobonichi A6, but I want to explore more and be more creative at times, which this very structured layout of the Hobonichi doesn't really provide me with. And that's why I started using my traveler's notebook. I've just taken out the insert just for ease of explaining everything. So I am less precious with my insert. It's not for memory keeping, it is just for fun. I'll most likely never reread what I have written, possibly with the exception of book reviews that I do, my thoughts on books, because I often reread my books, so it's nice to know what I first enjoyed about it versus now if I have a different opinion on a reread years later. Other than this, I think the rest of the pages are mainly just for recaps or even for me to vent on things that I did not enjoy. I don't see myself like rereading these pages. It would just be to flip through the book and just look at the spreads. Next would be finding my own style and not copying others. When I started using my A6, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the book. I had a general idea of how I would fill in the daily pages. It really evolved the more I used it. I tend to use pictures, either those that I've taken myself, like from my camera roll, or something that I find online on Tumblr or Instagram that resonated with me for this specific day. And I mainly tend to use my own stickers that I create for my shop. There are so many people who just copy other spreads that they see, and you end up seeing the same thing that is everywhere. Either people are using the exact same stickers or just directly copying somebody's spread, and that is totally fine to use inspiration from others while you are still finding your own style. Like, I actually did that in here for my November spread. I used inspiration for this page in my November monthly intentions. I wanted a very structured layout on one side of the page and on the other to have a little bit more of a loose flowing style, which I found from an image on Instagram. And after I did it, I realized that I don't like this style. So I mean, I like it for the original creator, and I will continue to like their work, but it isn't for me. I felt this was far too much effort and energy for what I achieved. So don't force yourself to do something just because others are doing it and you may feel like you need to do it that way. Try things out, experiment, but just don't copy somebody's style. I know it's very common to see this I've seen a lot of people enjoying this more spooky gothic style, and that's cool, but it's the same thing that you see on everybody's spread and it's just boring. So do your own thing, that's completely fine, and that would lead me to the next thing that I learned, which was experimenting and trying new things. So because I have this TN insert that I made myself, I'm not precious about the book at all because I know I can always just make another one. It was cheap, like I used cheap paper to create it, so I'm not really concerned about wasting any of the paper as much as that would be a concern for me in my Hobonichi, because I know this is an expensive book. So I'm not worried about wasting the paper in my TN as much as I am conscious of it in my A6. I'm also, if I do something and I hate how it turns out, I can just stick something over it and cover it up, which is something that I did here. I wanted to have the word December across the bottom, and I started to stamp it. I'll actually show you. Okay, there. So I started stamping and I didn't like how it turned out, so I just stuck something over it. And you'd never know that I changed my mind after trying something out and turned out I didn't like it. So I just get to write and create things, and if I hate it, I will just cover it up with something. It's a lot more freeing than my hobonichi. I do a lot, like I fold in the page on itself. I tend to do a lot of tip-ins and add additional pages into the book, like here. I also got to include some of my digital spreads like this one, where I did print it and have a little bit more of an analog feel to something that originally existed digitally. And none of this would have been possible if I was just sticking to my A6. I definitely think that if you are feeling somewhat limited in a system that you currently are in, to try a cheaper alternative or just to fill in that void that you may feel, so you're not consciously aware of wasting something and it just doesn't hold you back in any way, which is something that I felt with my A6. So definitely I will be experimenting a lot more and just trying other styles and other things as much as I'm comfortable with. A lot of layering and collage elements and folding things in, sticking things in, doing tip-ins. I also want to try other styles of creative journaling. So the next thing I think would be to embrace blank pages. Journaling every single day is difficult. Life does get in the way at times, and you may feel like there may be days where you just don't want to journal for whatever reason, and that's completely okay. At first, when I started in my A6, I felt like I had to journal every single day, and if I missed a day, I would try to backfill because those memories would then be gone forever, and I have such a bad memory anyway. That is a genuine concern, but I also wasn't really being genuine either, because I'm essentially completing a lie. This book is meant to reflect my past, it's meant to reflect my life, and that means that not every single day will be documented. And if I am forcing myself to document after the fact, then I'm not being true to what really happened. So blank pages also tell a story. It shows that something happened, that life got in the way, that I didn't want to sit down and write. Blank pages belong in my book just as much as the heavily documented pages I spent my free time trying to decorate and make aesthetic and pretty alongside my memories. So I mean, there is a month, I think it is. So I have the almost entirety of August that is just blank because I was super depressed and didn't want to write in my book because what am I going to write about? So it's stayed blank the entire month, and I'm fine with that. I won't write in why it's blank, just because I know my future self will definitely judge my past self for not trying to backfill those pages. But that's just me, and I know, like, right now I know the reason why the page is blank, but I'm not going to forever remember that. So I'm okay with the pages being blank. Obviously you may not be, and that's totally fine. You can backfill, you can also repurpose the page for something else, if not for your daily entries. I know a lot of people on the hobonichi subreddit do often comment and ask about blank pages. Having a blank page in my book does not discourage me from writing, like from continuing to write. I don't see the blank space as I need to fill it in, or as a way to completely discourage me from journaling as a whole. So definitely I am going to be embracing blank pages in the new year. I will try in my new book to journal every single day, so that at the end of the year I will have an entire book with daily entries for the whole year. But if I don't meet that goal, that's also completely fine. I would try to improve and not have an entire month, try and not have an entire blank month, but I'm still fine with some blank pages. I also decided that I would like to document the little things more. So some days I don't do much. I work from home, and I'm very fortunate that my full-time job allows for me to do that. The probability of something interesting happening to me are very slim. So if you worked in an office environment, there would be a lot more. I think there's you interacting with your colleagues. You may spontaneously want to go out for lunch, or something exciting may have happened throughout your workday. I generally don't have those things. The days often seem to blend into each other, and it can just become just one big blur. So I want to try to document some of the smaller moments and smaller things that I can look back on in the future fondly. Like maybe my dog did something that's I found really cute, and I just want to write about him for a little bit. So it's not necessarily groundbreaking or a large part of my day, but it is just a little moment that I know I will look back on, or it will mean a lot to me in the future. Similarly, if you have like children and they say something, just write that down. I mean, it's not big. It is a little moment in your day, so it is something that you could enjoy and look back fondly on in the future. So that's something I'm going to incorporate into my daily journal entries, and not just stick to a very general recount of the daily events. I also noticed while I was paging through my book, now that this book is completed, that as I'm paging through, I would like to use more pictures. While I'm flipping through the book, the picture that I've taken, sometimes the picture itself is enough to trigger a memory for me, and that will either prompt me to want to reread that entry and remember whatever happened on that day, or sometimes that picture is just enough for me to acknowledge that such and such happened, and then I keep flipping through the pages. So I would like to include more pictures that I've taken of my day in my book. I may change the size of the pictures because I do tend to keep everything somewhat uniform, because I am again conscious of how much space I have to write. It is a smaller book, so you don't have a lot of real estate in here, especially if you are pasting in things. Once you've pasted in, you've kind of lost that space. So I would like to add in more pictures as well, and not just rely on decorating and stickers. Another thing for me is realizing and trying to implement that not every page needs to be absolutely perfect and aesthetic. Yes, I do enjoy when my book looks really beautiful, but there are some days that I create something and I just don't like how it turned out. So just reminding yourself what you value out of the book. For me, I value the journaling and memory keeping aspect, so that will always be priority for me, and aesthetics or the fun of decorating will come second or last. So just accepting that not everything needs to be perfect, and often you rather just get it done, because having something done is better than it being perfect or just completely left out and unfinished. I also realized that I need to be more intentional on my purchases, and to not buying more stationery items, to use what I currently have, because I do have quite a bit of ephemera and stickers and just random paper bits that I've accumulated over the years. Realize I don't need a collection of stationery. I rather have a collection of my memories. I rather have a collection of my little books that I have currently. These are my old ones. So that's what I rather have, a collection of my memories and thoughts, as opposed to just a collection of rubber stamps and stickers and just stuff. Also, just being a lot more intentional with what I am consuming. Of course, you'll see the same tools that I use. Like, I bought my hobonichi. It is a book that you'll use for the entire year. My covers, like, these are the tools that I bought to use, so I intend on using them for the next upcoming year and hopefully for years thereafter. So you may still see some of the same tools video to video, and that can sometimes be slightly boring in terms of consuming content and watching, like, my system not changing and me using the exact same tools. But I use it because I genuinely do love the products that I buy, and I'm going to use it. It's not exactly feasible for the average person to switch out their planners every week, to buy tons of stationery, to do elaborate unboxings. So and also, me as a viewer, I don't tend to watch people once they start planner hopping. No shame or hate if that's something that you do. You do you. I just find it annoying to watch somebody set up a new planner or a new system every other week because they are finding some reason to not be in that system and then switch back months later. I just don't like watching that. So if this content does become slightly boring to you, apologies, but that's just how life is. I'm also a creature of habit, so I'm going to do what works for me until it no longer works. So yeah, just using the things I have, being more intentional with purchases. Like, I still have not used the Paddington handkerchief that I purchased from my last Hobonichi order. That, I swear, that handkerchief is literally going to haunt me because I have not gotten a use for it, and it feels like I bought something. I knew I didn't have a use for it when I bought it, but I just wanted to have it, and now that I have it, I feel like even if I didn't have it, it wouldn't impact my life in any way. So definitely going to only buy things that have true intention and purpose for my life, and not just buying things because limited edition, because that's something that brands tend to do. Something is sold in a limited quantity, limited run, limited time, and then we feel like you have to buy it now or you will regret that decision. And lastly, I want to engage in my hobbies a lot more. I want to do a lot more of the things I enjoy. While I do like memory keeping and romanticizing my incredibly mundane life, I also want to use my free time for the other hobbies that I enjoy, like reading, doing puzzles, knitting, playing video games, or caring for my various virtual pets. I mean, I can always incorporate these elements into my journaling, and I've done that before in the form of like media journaling here. I've also included some of my Tamagotchi resources that I've made for myself. So I can incorporate those aspects into my journal if I want, but I would just like to engage in my hobbies and not burn out just by doing journaling and then start hating it either. So yeah, those are just some of the things that I've learned throughout the past year. If you are new and this will be your first time journaling or being part of the community, don't worry. The more you do something, the more you'll find what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and that's how you'll evolve and create your own system or style. All of this was very trial and error for me. I would do something and then I would come to not like it after a while, or it just no longer served the purpose that I need. So that's also important, to make whatever you do suit your life and be in line with what you want from your books and from your journals. Now I'm officially moving into my Hobonichi A6 now that this one is completed, and I do have a lot of the new accessories, so I'm excited to try some of those for this year, and I'll still be using some of the accessories that I've got from previous years. They are not going into storage with the old book. Hopefully some of these things that I learned can help you out in some way, or if you've learned anything from your experience, please share with everyone else. I personally would love to know, and maybe you do something that I can attempt and incorporate into my lifestyle. For January, the plans, I don't really know what I'm going to do just yet. I don't have any knitting projects in mind. I wanted to crochet the little doll from Lilo and Stitch, Scrump, Lilo's little doll, but I haven't decided on that yet. I have some books in mind to read, specifically wanting to finish Midnight Sun, and I also downloaded Manacled, but that's very low on my priority. I still have 2 puzzles that I could do as well. And I'm watching Dynasty, which so far has been enjoyable, so I think next week's video will just be a journal with me. So I hope you found this video helpful in some way. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.